Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Wool Through the Trees knitting podcast. My name is Katie. I am a 25-year-old maker living in Rhode Island, and this is a podcast where I like to share all the things that I have been knitting and spinning and yarn dyeing since the last time I podcasted. In this case, it's been a little bit shorter in between podcasts. It's only been 10 days, but I am trying to get on a more regular schedule for podcasting. As of right now, I feel like this will be a shorter episode, but I'm sure you will be looking at the timestamp and being like, you're crazy, because it's never a short episode when I think it is. We follow a fairly standard knitting podcast format where first I talk about my finished objects and then my works in progress. Then I usually go on to spinning and then some admin stuff for my yarn dyeing business if applicable. So I would say let's just jump right on in to the finished objects for today. The very first one is a sneaky sneak peek. You can see it hanging behind me. It is my Lacerback Tank, which is a test knit for Jamie Hoffman, who is Knitosophy on Instagram, and I think maybe Ravelry too. She's Knitosophy. I know her Ravelry group is Knitosophy if you would like to join that. So the Lacerback Tank, which is hanging up back there, is a racerback tank top with a full lace back that I test knit. I finished it just the other day. It's a top-down construction, but the shoulders of the tank top are not picked up in knit. I don't want to like tell you everything about the pattern because I feel like that's dishonest, but it's a very interesting construction that I have not done before. But the way that the shoulders are put together gives extra structure to the tank top, which is good because it, like I said, it has a full lace back. It is a cropped length and there are options for bust darts, which I opted to do. I don't know if you can tell, I'm looking in the viewfinder, but you might be able to tell a little bit of the pooling changes a little bit with the bust darts, but it looks really good. Looks really good on. I tried it on this morning. It fits perfectly. The reason why I'm not like holding it up to the camera to show you is because I'm not supposed to show the full finished item until the pattern is released. I'm allowed to show it like in progress and stuff. I'm not supposed to show the full thing until the pattern's released in order to like build excitement for the pattern basically. So you can see the little teaser of it, which it's also a teaser for something else, which we may or may not be talking about later, but if you heard me talk about it last podcast, then you will know the secondary teaser aspect to it. So that is my first finished object for the week. My second and last finished object for this week is a cowl. It is a cowl that I kind of just like made up the pattern as I was going along. This is my handspun yarn, so you may remember me talking about this last podcast episode as well, where I was saying I have all of these skeins of my handspun yarn and I can't think of what to do with them because I don't like shawls. And then I was like, well, I do want something to like keep my neck warm and I don't like shawls, so that basically leaves a scarf or a cowl. So I decided to knit a cowl, and this handspun you have seen on the podcast before. Let me hold it up so you guys can see it a little better, although it's kind of difficult to show a cowl, I'm realizing now, because my patented method of holding up a hat does not work for a cowl. So here we go. This is just like a self-drafted pattern. I didn't like follow anything. I've just kind of like made it up as I went along. As you can see, I've never shown a cowl before, so a little bit unwieldy for me personally, but it's just like, I think it's called like a bandana style because it has this like point at the bottom. So the way that I constructed this is I cast on like 3 stitches right here at the bottom, and then I just did increases with an I-cord border at the same time, and then once it got to a circumference that would fit around my head, because obviously it has to go on over my head, I joined it in the round Come on, focus, my friend. There we go. I joined it in the round, and I have this like slip stitch detail up the back because I wanted to hide the jog that you get with garter stitch in the round. There's still a jog, but it looks intentional. Intentional jog, right? And then you'll notice that there's these like little green stripes, or maybe you can't because it's kind of hard to see. So this main like bluey purple you heard me talking about last week, this is Superwash Merino from Paradise Fibers, and the colorway Mystic Forest is what this like purpley blue is. And I had like 204 yards of that. And I thought it was going to be enough, but if you remember a few podcast episodes ago, I showed you my Superwash Merino Paradise Fibers Emerald Bay spin, which was like the green and blue one that I was like freaking out over because I was like, oh my god, it looks commercial, it's so good. But you'll remember I had that like little mini itty bitty baby skein that was like 20 yards, it was like 5 grams, and I didn't know what to do with that because I don't know what to do with that skein of handspun either. So what I did is I took that little baby skein and I just did these little green stripes, which is like, it's so cute. Adorable, dare I say. And it was perfect because that obviously it gave me, you know, 4 extra rows of length on the cowl itself. And then I was able to use up that whole little baby skein. It was like perfect. And then I did an I-cord bind off at the top here, and that was also perfect because if you've ever done an I-cord bind off, you know it eats yarn like crazy. And my tail that I had remaining after I finished the I-cord bind off was like literally this big. It was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches long, which is like perfect. I was so happy. It was like just the perfect amount to like sew up that little like space that you get when you do an I-cord bind off, because you have to cast on stitches at the beginning and then at the end you have to like sew your I-cord edges together. So it was like literally meant to be, literally perfect. I could not tell you how many stitches this is. I just increased until it was enough. I like had it on a circular needle and I kept like putting it around my head to like make sure that it would actually pull on. So yeah, like literally no information about this other than handspun yarn, self-drafted pattern. It's like, it's very cute. And the other way I was like fooling around with it, it actually works very well as like a hood as well. So like if I put it on with this part sitting on my shoulders and then my head through this, it's like literally a perfect hood. And so it's like multi-use because I can put it on like this way with the bandana in the front and it's like cowl, or I could put it on this way with the bandana in the back and then it's like hood. So love this. Very fun. Yeah, second finished object. Okay, now we are moving on to works in progress. So this you have seen before, but it looked different last time you saw it. So funny story with this. This is my my Improv'd tank, or my Improv'd shirt. Sorry, there's a lot of balls of yarn attached, so I'm just trying to make it presentable. So this is my like little Improv'd tank. And you may notice that there is less work done. So I actually finished this. Here's the back if you wanted to see the back. So I actually finished this last week and I washed it and I blocked it and I like laid it out and, you know, let it dry and stuff. And I tried it on after I finished it and I was like, holy guacamole, this is way too big. Because again, like self-drafted, Improv'd pattern where I'm just like kind of going with the flow and like doing what looks right. But of course when it's on, like when it's scrunched up on a needle, I have no concept of how large it's going to be when it's like washed and blocked and stuff. So I was just like, yeah, it looks right. And it looked right when it was like blocking. I was like, yeah, that looks like my body size. And then I tried it on and I was like, whoa, I guess I don't know what I look like, because that it was a lot of positive ease, and I am a person who likes a lot of positive ease, but like in my vision, the way that I'm going to wear this is like over a long sleeve shirt, and so obviously I do want a little bit of positive ease to account for the shirt that I'm going to wear underneath, but I don't want so much positive ease that it looks wrong. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. But you know, I just want that sweet spot of positive ease. I can't be wearing a vest with 20 inches of positive ease. That's just ridiculous. So it was the way that I constructed this, it was kind of hard to like frog basically, because obviously like the front and the back panel are separate at the beginning and then you have to join them in the round. But also my armhole was like a little bit too deep. It was only like a ½ inch to an inch deeper than I wanted it to be. So I was like, that actually works, because the way that I did this, I increased very rapidly at the bottom of the armhole. So like you can see like my little I-cord edge is like very rapidly increasing. So it was, you know, like an inch past that and increasing even more. So I took it back and I like took it above, like an inch above the armhole, which got rid of probably like 40 stitches of increasing, which was good. And so now my armhole is shorter and I also have less body stitches. And like all I can say is that hopefully now it will fit. Because when I tried it on, like the neckline is so cute and like the width of the shoulders is like perfect to what I had envisioned. And the thing that I was worried about earlier, which was like this like I-cord pickup that I had on the back, it looks really good on because it sits like where I wanted it to. So basically all I have to say is I'm a genius, but I would be so much more of a genius if I could count. So yeah, I took out about 40 stitches of body, and so now I'm just working away. The stripes are going to look different because obviously it's like a different amount of stitches now. So it's not going to look exactly the same as it did before. The stripes are going to be, in my head, in my vision, if I'm thinking correctly, the stripes will be more. Like, because of the way that the yarn looks, here, let me show you a ball. Like, this dark green will, I don't know how to explain this. It's going to like appear in the same spot more rapidly. Does that make sense? I guess so. So like obviously it's worked flat back and forth before the armhole, and then after the armhole it's worked in the round. I feel like I'm over explaining this, but like these like dark green stripes are gonna look different than they did before. Not that you guys know or care because you didn't see the finished thing, but like I'm just trying to keep you updated with all the thoughts that are in my head. So that's my Improv'd shirt. And then really my only other work in progress is a sneak peek for you guys again. It's going to be a sample for some of my winter collection yarn. I am knitting a headband pattern. I can't remember if I've told this on the podcast or not before, but my mom and my sister both really prefer like a headband instead of a hat in the winter. That's just their preference. So I like to knit hats a lot, but for my mom and my sister, they both don't like hats, so I knit them headbands instead. So this will be going to one of them. I might make another one and they can have matching ones because that's cute. So this pattern is called Marble Staircase by Celeste Knitwear. It is a free pattern. I'm going to show it to you. I'm procrastinating because it's a spoiler for my winter collection. So it's like this very, very pretty, like, sorry, my tail's in the way. That's so unprofessional. It's this very, very pretty, like, big cable in the center and then little twisty cable on the side. And actually, like, this little twisty cable with the yarn over in the center, I had never done that cable before, but I love it. Like, that's my new favorite cable. It's so fun. So it has the little twisties on both sides, and then an I-cord border obviously, and then this big cable in the middle. I've got quite a bit of it done, but it's like, it's not enough to be a head. But it looks so cute, and like all I can envision is like this on a panel of a sweater. Like, I think that this like section of cable motif is like so perfect. Imagine that on a sweater, that would be so beautiful. So yeah, this is going to be one of those headbands that's obviously it's knit flat, and then it gets like sandwiched together, and then you sew the sandwich, and then when you straighten it out it has like the little like twist. So it's gonna be a little twisty headband in this beautiful color that I can't talk about until November 1st, but you can just take it in all of its glory. I'm very excited about it. And this, just in case you're wondering, this is my classic DK base. It's 100% superwash merino. It's 8 plies. It's gorgeous. It's so soft and silky. It's a very pretty color, I'm just gonna say that. and we're moving on. So next we will talk about spinning. And let me show you the spin that you guys have seen before. So this is my first Rambouillet spin, and it's done. It's, how can I put this nicely? It's not perfect. I'm just like poorly twisting it up so you guys can see. So it's a little bit over twisted, but it was my first time spinning Rambouillet, and I really wanted to get a fingering weight, so I was like really like pushing it. So it's a little bit over twisted, but it's very, very pretty. So I dyed this fiber myself. It was like pastel pinks and like this caramel toffee brown color, and then obviously spun those together, and I got this like nudie pinky brown. I was going to sell the skein, but because it is over twisted, I'm just not, like, just gonna put that out of my head. And actually this like Emerald Bay fiber was severely over twisted, probably like some of the most over twisted or overspun yarn that I've ever made. And it knit up into a beautiful fabric. Like, it's gorgeous squishy garter stitch, and it's still like, it's not irritating to have on. So I'm like, I'm not concerned that this is like not going to knit well. I just, because it's like not my best work, I'm like, I don't want to sell someone my overspun Rambouillet. That just, you know, whatever. So I'm going to knit with it. And my idea, I don't think I told you yardage. So this is a 2-ply fingering weight. I got 366 yards, which is very good. For me, it's very good. In case you don't know, I spin on drop spindles. I spin and ply on drop spindles, so it's easier to mess up, basically. That's all I have to say, in my humble opinion. Not that I've ever spun on a wheel, but I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more room for error on a drop spindle. Just me. Grain of salt. So my plan for this yarn, I was about to say fiber, but it is yarn now. My plan for this is to make the Simple Thing shawl. I forget who the designer is, but I'll have it linked down below. And it's basically like a take on the Sophie scarf by Petite Knit, but for many reasons I do not support Petite Knit as a designer, even in accessory patterns. I just don't want to give her any of my money. So I will not be knitting the Sophie scarf, but I am planning to knit the Simple Thing, which is as the designer says, it's like a cross between a scarf and a shawl. So you like cast on a little bitty baby and then it grows, and it's like a... Can I words today? The ends are small and the middle is big. Triangle scarf thing. Okay. And I think she said in the pattern description that you can really use any weight of yarn. It's written for a DK weight, but as long as you have like 300 yards of it, you'll be able to knit to pattern. But also it's like a very customizable pattern, so you can just kind of like do whatever. But basically, like, the middle is garter stitch. I really think I need more coffee. The middle is garter stitch and the edges are I-cord. So I'm planning on doing that in this yarn, and so you may see that soon. I'm sure it'll like I said, I'm sure it'll knit fine, because this purple yarn was like even more, it was like actually painful to like hold and knit with because it felt like so ropey and just overspun. This purple was only like my second ever time plying yarn, so I was just kind of like scared. And then this, like, for the most part, sorry, it's like it's on a zip tie because it was drying, so it's not like pretty for you, but like for the most part this is like a really good yarn. And then there's just like some spots in there where I'm like you can see right there, there's like some like squigglies where it's just like really overspun. And so I'm like, not my favorite, but I would say like 80 to 85% of it is like really good. So I'm not gonna have problems knitting with it. And again, just to reiterate for the 100th time, this was even more overspun, and it's like a really nice fabric now that it's knit. So I'm not concerned. Even though it may seem like I'm concerned because I ranted about it for 10 minutes straight. Anyway, spinning finished object. Let's move on to my spinning work in progress, which is almost like technically a half finished object because this ply is done. So this is a drop spindle in case you have never seen one before and you twist it and gravity pulls your yarn for you. There you go. So this fiber is Superwash Merino carded sliver. I know you have heard me rant on and on about how I don't like Superwash Merino combed top. That is true. I don't like Superwash Merino combed top, especially in its like commercial preparation. I don't like it. It just feels not good to me. But this is carded sliver, which means that it's a woolen prep of fiber, so the fibers are going in all different directions. This is made from reclaimed mill ends, so the staple lengths are variable, and it's just like it's recycled Superwash Merino, and it's very fun to spin. So this is one ply of it. I dyed this fiber myself. It's like a very pastel blue, green, purple. And I actually have the second ply still in braid form because obviously this is the first ply, this is the second ply, it's going to be a 2-ply. So I have to wind this off onto my toilet paper bobbin and then spin the second ply, but this is what it looks like in the braid. Like I said, it's like pastels, blues and greens and purples. Very, very pretty. Like, oh, so gorgeous. So yeah, these will get plied together. It'll be a beautiful pastel tonal yarn. Very excited for that. And then I must be in a freaking pastel mood because I dyed another braid of fiber and it came out like exactly the same. So this is a braid of Targhee. First of all, like, just bask in it. Like, that is so beautiful. Again, it's like pastel blue, green, purple, but this is Targhee combed top. So it's not superwash, which makes it like even more pastel and beautiful. And like, I can't get enough of it. It's so pretty and it's so fluffy. I've only spun Targhee as like a test. Like, I've only spun like 5 yards of it. I haven't spun like a full braid of Targhee, so I'm very excited to spin this. It's like so plump and bouncy even as a fiber, so I'm very excited for the yarn that I will get. I might even go for a worsted weight yarn. That's tentative. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. My go-to is like somewhere between a sport and a DK. With the Rambouillet, I was trying really hard to get fingering, which is why it is so overspun, because I was like really nervous that it was gonna fall apart. This Superwash Merino will probably be about a fingering to maybe a sport weight. I'm not really sure how this will perform once it's washed, because this is my first time spinning this preparation of fiber, so because it is a woolen prep, it may really plump up once it gets washed. So I'm gonna say this will be a sport weight. Graciously, that will be a sport weight. And then with this, I'm thinking I'll probably get a DK. Maybe a worsted. I don't think I've ever spun a worsted weight yarn, but I have when I was learning, because it's very hard to get a thin yarn when you're learning. So I have spun a worsted weight. It was not good, but this might be my first good worsted weight, but maybe a DK. I'll have to see how it feels as I'm spinning it, but like, you can tell I'm very into the pastels at the moment. Like, it's nearly the same, even though, you know, one is superwash, so it is darker, but that's just, it's like, it's so pretty. Oh. That's a very good representation of the colors. So the Targhee is a little bit more pastel, a little bit more purple. The Superwash Merino is more blue. Yeah. So that's really it for the spinning and the knitting and the project part of the podcast. Now we're gonna move on to talk about books and what I'm watching, and then we will be done. So, short podcast, I'm thinking. Alright, so what am I reading? Last time I talked to you, I think I was still in the middle of The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I finished that. I gave it 5 stars. That book, I said in my Goodreads review, I was like, this book is sick, like literally sick, but also like so effing good. Like, and the twists just kept twisting. Like, every time you thought you had it figured out, there was just like one more thing that you were like, jaw on the floor, like, so good. Loved that book. I was also reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I am still reading. I hesitated on that word because I think last time I was at 20% of the book. I think now I am at 30% of the book. It is a slog. I said last time I was having trouble getting through it, and I am still having trouble getting through it. It's, I just don't like the writing style, and I knew going in that I didn't like the author's writing style, but it's a grind to get through it. And I'm like desperate to finish it because I love the idea and the premise of the book so much that I'm like, I just need to know how she finishes the story because I love the idea of it so much, but I just don't like the writing style. So I'm like forcing myself to read a chapter a day. Some days I read more than one chapter. Like, I don't want to spoil it, but the part that I'm at, it's like, it's only starting to get interesting now. And again, I'm about 30% of the way through it. I think I might be more than 30%, but somewhere between 30 and 40. And it's like only now starting to get good and interesting. But I'm only interested in the chapters that are from a different character's point of view. So it's very hard for me to encourage myself to keep reading the chapters that are from Addie's point of view because I just can't get through it. Anyways, trying really hard to get through that one. But because I am slogging through that one, of course I've had to pick up multiple other books in the meantime. So I also like flew through, like read in one day, The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden, and I started that on like October 2nd and I finished it on October 2nd. It just came out on September 30th. It was not my favorite, so it was hard to juggle reading two books that I didn't like at the same time, but obviously I powered through it because I finished it in a day. The Boyfriend, I mean. That's like, it's another Frida McFadden, so it's like another romance, murder mystery type of book. Not necessarily even romance, like, it's obviously called The Boyfriend, but like, it's not like a type of romance. It's just like, it focuses on the main character's boyfriend for a lot of the book. I didn't like that one because I thought the plot twist was very obvious, which is like my main problem with murder mystery or like suspense or thriller novels, is that I'm just like, a lot of the times that I read them, I'm like too focused on solving the mystery to enjoy the book. Like, I'd rather just solve the mystery before the author reveals the twist. And this one I had it solved like halfway through the book, and then like every twist that came after that, I'm like, yeah, but that's just a red herring. So for me, it was like very obvious what the final twist would be. I didn't like the last chapter of it. Like, the way that it ended, I didn't like, but then the epilogue kind of turned it around, and I was like, okay, it's fine, I guess. So yeah, obvious plot twist, not my favorite ending. I gave it 3 stars. So, but it's like, the second after I finished it, I was like, okay, I'll give it 4 stars. And then I slept on it, and the next day I was like, I have to take away a star. It's 3 stars. And then like, now that I'm over a week past it, I'm like, that might be a 2.5 star book. Like, at the more time I spend away from it, the lower my rating gets. And I'm like, I didn't really enjoy that. The other book that I'm currently reading now is called The Silent Patient. What's the author's name? It's Alex something, I think. The Silent Patient is by Alex Michaelides. It's good. I think I'm about 40% of the way through that one. That one's much more interesting. It's like another kind of murder mystery type of thing, but not necessarily. It focuses, like, you get the murder in like the very first chapter, like in the prologue basically. But it's like this famous artist that murders her husband, and then like after she murders her husband, she goes totally mute and she just like won't talk. And it focuses on her therapist in her like psych ward trying to get her to talk, to like explain why she murdered her husband. So it's very good so far. I feel like I haven't read any of Alex Michaelides' books before, so I'm like, I'm not really sure what to expect. Like, I am very untrusting of every single character that gets introduced because I just don't know like where the plot is gonna go, like if there's gonna be some like crazy scheme at the psych ward. So I'm like, my brain is just like tangling and like searching for every possibility of like what could be the plot twist, which is always my issue when I read like a murder mystery book like that. So it could be a case of there is no twist at all, and like the finale of the book is just the artist finally explaining why she killed her husband, or there could be like an undercover twist. My brain keeps like referencing Shutter Island, if you guys have seen that movie, so that's kind of like what keeps making me think like there's gonna be some sort of plot twist with the psych ward. But again, I'm less than halfway through it, so there could be no twist at all. So I really don't know what to expect, but I am enjoying that book a lot more than The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So I'm having to balance my reading with like 3 chapters of The Silent Patient and like 1 chapter of Addie LaRue, and like trying to ping pong between them. So that's basically it for what I'm reading and what I have been reading. And then I'm just gonna tell you guys that I have been rewatching Gilmore Girls, which like, it's like the basic white girl thing to watch in the fall. But I originally, so my older sister watched it when it came out in like the early 2000s because she was in high school in the early 2000s, and so it was like, she was like the target demographic for the show when it originally aired. And then I started watching it for the first time when, like, obviously I wasn't watching it when I was like 4 years old with my grown-up older sister, but I started watching it like for myself for the first time when I was in high school. So like my senior year of high school and my first year of college, I was like rewatching or watching Gilmore Girls, and then certain things happened in the show where I was like, nope, I am refusing to accept the reality, and so I will not be finishing it. So I've never officially finished it. I can't remember if there's 6 or 7 seasons, but I think I stopped at the 5th season. And like, I know what happens because it's a show that's been out for over 20 years. So like, I know what happens at the end, and so I'm just like, and also like they did that the like a year in the life like extra special thing that I haven't watched either because I don't want to accept the reality. So I haven't watched the ending of Gilmore Girls or the year in the life special, but this time I am older, I am more mature, I am more accepting of harsh negatives in life, so this time I will be forcing myself to actually finish the show, even if things happen that I don't like. So that's what I'm doing. I'm currently on season 3. I'm just gonna say I am a Jess girl through and through. Like, that's like the only man I could ever love because he's, if you've watched the show, I know you know. I know you know. So anyways, that also is something that inspired me to stop watching, is when Jess left the show. I was like, why the F would I keep watching the show without my favorite character in it? And then certain things that Rory does, despicable, unacceptable. Anyways, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, even though, like I said, it has been out for over 20 years. If you haven't watched it and you're interested in watching it, I'm not gonna spoil it for you. So I think that is actually it for today. I spent a little bit longer talking about reading and watching than I think some of my knitting, so. But I do want to say thank you everyone so much for watching. Please feel free to like leave what you're reading and watching in the comments, leave what you're knitting in the comments or what you're spinning, etc, etc. I love talking to you guys because it makes me feel like we're having like our own little vicarious knitting group or virtual knitting group. So yeah, just like feel free to leave whatever comment you feel. I did mention that I will be going on a trip at the end of this month. I am hoping to get like one more podcast episode in the month of October before my trip happens. So hopefully I will see you again very soon in the penultimate week of October. But you know me, so keep your fingers crossed that I stick to my schedule. But until I see you again soon, happy making!